Good afternoon, everyone. I am Marita Davis Johnson. I'm chair of the County Operations Committee, better known as OPS. We're about to get started for our meeting. And so the members that serve on the committee with me, Commissioner Ladina Bowden, and also Commissioner Robert Patrick. And with that, have either you all had an opportunity to review the minutes of January the 20th, 26th County Operations Committee, and January the 22nd, 2006 special call meeting. That's 0261, 260261, and 260262.
Make a motion to approve 0261, 0262.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve 260261 and 260262. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, those items are approved. The next item is Board of Commissioners 25-1693, a resolution of the governing authority of DeKalb County, Georgia, to establish a process for the selection of voting delegations to represent DeKalb County in association and organizational matters. I think that John was going to speak on that. And that's a previously heard item.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, commissioners. At the last board meeting, Commissioner Longspears requested that staff do some research into both ACCG and NACO's processes for selecting a voting delegate at their annual meetings. Just as a little bit of background, both ACCG and NACO have annual business meetings in which they do, their policy platforms or business of the organization. For ACCG, they request that a member of the governing authority is selected as the voting delegate for the business meeting. Last year, the Legislative Leadership Conference was held on October 9th, and ACCG requested the delegate by August 29th. So about a month and a half prior to the actual meeting. For NACO, they request that their delegate be selected prior to the voting meeting. Last year, the voting meeting would have been held on 7/14, and they requested that you make your delegate selection the day before, 7/13.
July the
13th, so just one day before. But NACO uses an online link on their website, and then the county can choose from there. There is a resolution, this current resolution, 2025-1695, does request that we adopt a structure for formally designating a delegate for ACCG and NACO. Staff has reviewed the resolution and agrees with the resolution. We just had one additional consideration for you all. I think it would make a lot of sense if we made it so the clerk had to create this agenda item when we find out the deadlines for each organization. So for example, if this year the Legislative Leadership Conference was on October 1st and they wanted the delegate selected by August 15th, then we would create an agenda item 30 days ahead of that August 15th deadline for discussion amongst the board for the selection of a delegate. And the same with NACO, just creating an actual agenda item for each designation. That's the only consideration in addition to staff.
And is that inclusive of the governing authority?
Yes, ma'am.
Which
It is.
Okay.
It is inclusive of the governing authority for both organizations. ACCG's language specifically says, the chair, CEO, mayor, or any other member of the governing authority.
Okay.
And then the same with NACO.
Okay. And our resolution says the governing authority.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, and so if the clerk's office is going to be responsible for that, they should understand that they will be responsible for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Clerk? Okay, so that means that 30 days prior to the deadline, you all will be making an agenda item. And if it's not made, we'll look at the clerk's office? Okay, 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 thank you. I did not recognize our presiding officer that was sitting here in our meeting today, and then we've had a couple of other commissioners that came in, Commissioner Michelle Long Spears and Commissioner Ted Terry. So welcome and thank you all for attending today. So are there any comments or questions of our committee members? Okay, okay, okay. So Commissioner Shakira Johnson and then Commissioner Long Spears.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to clarify on what Mr. Manson was saying about the clerks creating the agenda item. Is that language that needs to be added to the resolution?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted, so.
Yes, ma'am. Staff will request that, I believe that this is a District 2 resolution, but just that language be added, and we can work with the district to add it.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Do you have any problem with that language being added?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Okay. Now, you have,
Thank you. All right. So thank you very much for doing your research with ACCG and NACO and just getting a better understanding of what their processes are. I am appreciative that your recommendation is to adopt this new process with one consideration, fully in support of that consideration as well. And I know the clerk said she would work with you on it. What I have distributed to all of you is a substitute for this item, and this is a substitute that Mr. Welch worked on back in November. So I passed it out. It has if you need a copy, I have an extra
do,
copy.
'cause I don't.
I think I do at least. Down for me. All right, so I don't know that I have another copy, so, oh, thank you, ma'am. All right, I will ask for Mr. Welch just to go through all of the changes that he suggested from the original resolution and why he suggested those changes, but ultimately, I am requesting the Ops Committee to please recommend approval and advance it to the full board, so.
Thank you, ma'am. Happy to
The sub,
address that.
the sub.
And, to the points that were just made by Mr. Manson, we can incorporate that obviously into this draft that you have in front of you. There's nothing here that would conflict with the statements and recommendations from Mr. Manson. So just for clarity, what you have in front of you, there are a couple of changes, but they all have the same goal. We have added in a couple of places the word external to make clear that we are talking about independent boards and bodies, not boards, bodies, or commissions that you all create. And then you will see in the number 1 at the bottom of the first page, we've added some language that specifically differentiates this process from the 13A appointment process outlined in your organizational act. As you all know, 13A says that when a body of state law or a body of law external to you all says that the governing authority has an appointment, it outlines a process. As we've already discussed once today, we are a unique form of government within Georgia. And so the 13A process does account for the opinions of both the CEO and this board in the appointment process. We wanted to make crystal clear that these would fall outside of that process and that nothing that 13A governs would fall within this independent process. So that's the goal of the changes. I hope they're self-explanatory. And as I said, if it sounds like it is the will of the board, we can add that specific process that Mr. Manson laid out to this version.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. As a follow-up, sir, at the bottom of page 1 of the substitute, Number 3, selection. And so it states here, the voting delegate shall be selected by a majority vote of the Board of Commissioners during a duly noticed business meeting held at least 30 days prior to the date on which the voting delegate is required to serve. For NACO's legislative conference, there's not a voting delegate for that, correct? Okay, goody two-shoes. All right, that helps. And then also, Mr. Welch, I thought you had made one other suggestion.
I changed the name of the county attorney to our current. And made some other kind of Scrivener's corrections, but at least in the version
Yep.
that I'm seeing,
Yeah, we'll have to update the presiding officer on there as well.
correct. We'll make all those updates.
Right, so ultimately, again, I'm just asking for the Ops Committee to provide a recommendation to approve this item when it appears in front of the full board. I will be certain to provide the substitute at the business meeting next week, because you can't walk a substitute technically onto a committee meeting or a COW meeting. And then lastly, I just want to be super crystal clear here, is that this is a majority vote for a member of the full governing authority, so the 7 commissioners plus the CEO, where if we want to vote for the CEO to serve as our voting delegate with the 4 votes, we can do that, or a member of this board. All right, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, Madam Chair, and I yield back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a suggestion for any changes to the document, but when it comes forward, I would suggest maybe having a top 4 elected officials. If something happens and someone is not able to attend a meeting, we already have an alternate built in place. I know you do mention that to a certain extent,
Yep.
but if we just have them called out, this is top pick,
And
and carry it down from there.
an alternate, if you will?
And
Okay.
the alternates are already built in, and then
This one,
I would say go for a couple, because if something happens, someone gets sick and is
Right.
not able to attend, an airplane is.
I'm
delayed
open
for
to
some
that.
reason. And this isn't a change to the document, this is just a suggestion that when we put this together,
Mm-hmm.
let's put together a deep list of
okay, is there
individuals.
2 alternates that you're suggesting? I mean, because it needs to be in the document, and that's the only reason I'm saying that.
I would say 4.
4 alternates?
Well, the top pick and then 3 backups in case something happens. We've had it where
Okay.
we've been at a meeting and someone gets sick.
Okay.
I got sick
Okay.
and wasn't able to attend, and so I just think I like the principle, but something always goes wrong, let's be prepared for it on the front end.
May I respond to that?
Quickly.
So I'm open to any friendly amendment. If you guys want 3 with a total of 4, that's fine. If you want 2 with a total of 3, that's fine too. I do think there is some wisdom in having an alternate, because I forgot about that. That is true. That has happened since I've been on the board. And obviously, your first consideration is who's going.
Okay.
Yield
Okay,
back.
well, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the substitute with the changes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that's passed. The next item, and that's the substitute, that's approved. Okay, the next item, are new agenda items, and a resolution to establish the moratorium on the new hangar development at DeKalb Street Airport, and to urge the Federal Aviation Administration to restrict nighttime flights to emergencies. And I think someone from the airport wanted to speak on that. Or the administration.
Tell you what, I will begin, and then Mr. Hines will certainly interject. So this item, as we read it, we have several concerns and things we want to bring to your attention. One of the things this item calls for is a moratorium until such time that the master plan is updated. We'd like to offer that the master plan was recently, relatively recently updated, and this was in late 2023. Currently, there is not a plan in place for updating the master plan. It's important to note that the board already has full authority over development at the airport. Should items come before the board that the board is not interested in, then the board has the ability at that time simply not to approve the item as it relates to hangar expansion or development. And the third item is this seeks the governing authority, thus the county, to essentially negotiate, I guess, or discuss with FAA the elimination of nighttime flights. And I don't know, how they would come down on it. We've seen examples in other jurisdictions that it's not favorable. And this would be a use of our lobbying interests and resources that may be more or less for naught. So this is something we would definitely want to spend a lot more time on and have the concerns that I just articulated.
Okay, thank you. You want to speak on?
Want to add anything?
No, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Okay,
If you have any questions.
okay. First of all, I'm going to start with committee members.
No, it's
You all
it's my item.
I did want clarity on no nighttime flights. Was there a specific time of day that was referring to?
I don't know about a specific time of day. I mean, currently we have in place a voluntary curfew, which, it's between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. That is every day, every night. And this was done as part of it was an attempt to be a good neighbor. In the 90s, we did have a FAA noise study that was completed, and this was it's called Part 150 study. And through that Part 150 study, it does give recommendations for different things that can be attempted to try to help residents around the airport. And that was one of the things that was implemented as a part of that 150 study was the voluntary curfew period. Like I said, that's from 11 to 6. Generally, we see about 16 flights on average every night, half of those being medical flights, compared to the nearly 650 or more that we see throughout the rest of the day. It's relatively small number.
And Commissioner Terry, can you clarify whether this nighttime that is in item 3, if you were specifically referring to the 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. time period?
Yes, I mean, I think the voluntary curfew policy is designed to recognize that that's when people are sleeping. So yes, the goal ultimately would be to reduce the noisy nighttime flights, non-emergency related. And I believe that the voluntary is voluntary. However, I do believe in this resolution, and I would like to speak about it later, that there are ways that we can provide more encouragement for those who repeatedly violate the voluntary curfew.
And that's true. I mean, it is voluntary, and that is because we cannot restrict flights. So that voluntary curfew is just an encouragement to those operators to be good neighbors. And we do reach out to each one. We do send letters out to each one, and that's all that we can do. There's no recourse action that we can take to impose fines or other methods that we can really utilize to, I guess, further incentivize those that are coming in after or between those hours not to do so. But like I said, most people do follow that voluntary curfew period, and a lot of them are just. They come in late. They don't intend to come in between those hours, but sometimes things happen in other cities where they may be leaving, and it causes them to be late on their arrival back into the airport. So, but most people generally try to follow that, and we can see that with the reduction of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And did you say 16 or 60 flights between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m.?
An average of about 16. 16.
And half of those are medical.
Roughly half of those are medical. Yeah, that's what we typically see.
So this item right here would be to eliminate the other 8 or so?
Well, I'd like to speak on that particular policy because it's much more complicated.
Okay.
So I'll be happy to be recognized when I can.
Understood. I just wanted to get clarity of the impact item 3 would actually have if we consider the number of flights that occur during that time, even though it is voluntary. But I yield back.
Okay. Commissioner Petrie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Hines, who has the authority to regulate aircraft in general?
The FAA.
Flight times in particular?
FAA.
Okay. Before I met you, I knew your predecessor, Mario, and when I asked him that question, he said it would basically take an act of Congress to change that. Is that?
That is true.
That is true. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Okay.
Is your mic on?
No, it is now. Yeah, I tell you what, go on, Commissioner Terry, and then I'll come behind.
Okay, thank you. I would prefer if the committee chairs would recognize the author of the legislation first, because I probably could have saved y'all some time. But just, you asked a lot of questions, and a lot of them are around number 3, and what I was going to present was actually an acknowledgement that we probably are not going to be able to restrict nighttime flights, because basically the maneuver, it's not necessarily an act of Congress, it's more that we would have to pay back FAA grant money going back like 40 years or something. So there is a way to do it. It might just cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So I will concede that that's probably not the best approach. But what I was going to suggest, and this is actually a little bit captured in number 4, there actually are other communities around the nation that are dealing with this, and Congress does have a Quiet Skies caucus. So this, in essence, would just be asking our federal lobbying team to encourage our senators and Congress members to join that caucus and seek legislative action on some of these issues that other jurisdictions are dealing with. And so I intend to change this part specifically because I do not believe it will be practical to pay back all of that FAA grant money. Would you agree with that, Director Hines?
I think you would. We'd prefer not to.
Okay. I would like you to look at the possibility of different landing fees depending on different times of the day. I don't know if y'all looked at that.
Again, that is a way to restrict certain flights from operating, which would also go against certain regulations.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna ask us to look at that, because it's possible there are just additional things that have to be done at night that might cost more money. I mean, it's a fee should relate to the service.
Sure.
So I just don't know what operationally you'll have to do at night that might be different during the rest of the day. So
That's something we'll continue. As we discussed previously, we would talk to our advisory board about that and see
okay.
where we come up with.
Okay. Commissioners, the main reason I'm introducing this resolution is because I believe that when we were talking about Sky Harbor, a large number of people that showed up for the discussion were unaware the extent of the hangar development that was approved on the east side. Mm-hmm. And so, really the goal there was just to create a pause. And I believe that the overall environmental and noise study, the whole airport, related to the whole master plan, that is still underway.
It is. We are. You might be able to share about the.
Yeah.
We did receive recently the first draft of the final report from HMMH regarding the air quality and noise study. So we are finalizing our review currently, and then it'll go to the FAA. The FAA has they have 2 months to complete their review, in which time it'll come back to us for our dissemination to open DeKalb as well as the Board of Commissioners and so on.
Okay. I would like us to get that report, because part of this resolution is just acknowledging what the results of that study might be. So there might be some things that if that report comes back with X, Y, Z, there might be some things that we can remove from this resolution because they might be addressed.
Sure.
And then the last thing, Madam Chair, is just related. So did you say that the PDK master plan, I know that I guess we approved that in 2021, was it?
2023.
2023. Oh, shoot. Okay. That's right, because we kept pushing it back.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
It's the 2020 master plan,
It's the
but it was
2020,
approved in
right.
2023.
That's right. Okay, I'm remembering seeing it in 2021 when I first came on, but we didn't fully adopt it. Okay. So how often do y'all what will be the next time you do a master plan?
Typically, we do
update?
that between 5 and 10 years.
Oh, okay, well, it's 2026.
Well, I'm sorry, no, between 5, just to do an update.
Yeah.
But yeah, to actually do a whole nother master plan, that's typically about every 20 years.
Okay, but an update.
An update, yeah. So
Okay.
between 5 and 10 years.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm asking for, is an update of the PDK master plan before we approve any more hangar developments. So sounds like, do y'all have any thoughts on that? We're already at going on the 6th year since the 2020 master plan was completed. I don't think we really changed much when we adopted in 2023. So I'm really just thinking about it as a 2020 master plan.
Right, so I would have to go back and look in terms of what has been changed, but our position is that we currently don't have on the table an update of the master plan. And, if I recall, that took quite some time to get from, wherever we were to the conclusion. So it is our position that we would prefer not to have a moratorium until such time as the master plan was completed. We would not like to have a moratorium.
Okay. Well, if I knew that y'all were in the process of updating the master plan with some of the concerns that I'm raising in the resolution, then, I think the moratorium probably wouldn't be necessary. But I'd like to hear, if it's every 5 to 10 years, then we're, I guess, going into the 6th year of that window, so.
No, it was not passed until 2023.
No, I know, but the plan was completed in 2020.
Well, it wasn't completed.
It was still ongoing.
Yeah, it was ongoing because we did not pass it until 2023.
Okay, so major changes were made from 2020 to 2023? We adopted it?
Yeah,
I don't
we'd
remember.
have to go back and look at that, Commissioner.
No, I don't remember hardly. I think the controversy was over more jet hangars, and that's why it took a while to adopt it. But the functionality of the plan
Would you
being
like them to
done.
go back and look at it to see?
Well, I was here, so I remember.
I was here too.
But if you don't mind,
Yeah.
if you could just explain, was the 2023 adoption significantly different than the 2020 original report and plan?
Okay,
Is that fair?
okay. Do you have anything further, Commissioner Terry?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that, Commissioner Patrick, did you have something?
Yeah, just one more thing. Has this been presented to the Airport Advisory Board?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Has this been presented? You just.
Has this been presented to AAB?
No, it has not.
It is not. Okay. Okay.
Is there any reason that if we have a resolution affecting PDK, is there any reason why you don't share that resolution with the advisory board so that we can get input from them as well? Because we don't operate flights. I know very little about aviation. Only that I know to buy a ticket and get on the plane. So I'm saying,
If I can offer, and then Mr. Hines will certainly address, or Director Hines. So what we wanted to do is first have the administration's position be known and be clear. This has not been shared with the Airport Advisory Board, probably simply because of timing.
Okay.
It's not, this is something that could be shared. But, we just want to be clear that even if shared, it would simply be, this is something that has been introduced to the board, but the administration is not supporting.
see, this not, I'm sorry.
Is not supporting.
This is not supported, okay. Well, we know the administration's position. And what about PDK? Do they support it?
No, ma'am.
You don't support it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you have something further?
Yes, ma'am. I just have a couple of questions for clarity, Commissioner Terry. Item 1A, where you essentially request that any new hangar construction, expansion, or lease agreements, a moratorium on all of those. So that's from the day that the moratorium is approved for it, right? It wouldn't impact anything that was approved and voted on last year, even if the construction has not begun yet.
Correct.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask you about item 2B1 and B3. And B1, where you discuss the evaluation of noise, the environmental impact, those are things that you want updated in the master plan. And I think you alluded to it. You're just saying you want that, the study that was already done, not a new study, to be included in an updated plan.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Bolton. You read between the lines here. Yes, so we did this noise and environmental study to inform us of how the current master plan would have impacts on those two issues.
Correct.
So, so, I mean, at the very least, we should review the report. If there are things that could change in the master plan based on that report, again, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Then I think at the very least, that would be an update, like a small update, I guess, potentially, in the master plan.
Okay. I'll say my concern with that would be because as you indicated, the master plan was, we heard concluded in 2020, we heard voted on in 2023, and 5 to 10 years before it's necessary for an update. By the time we reach that 10-year, then the environmental plan will have some years on it. So they won't be, it really won't be in alignment to add that study to an updated plan, because it will be like adding dated information to a new plan.
So the way I'm viewing this is the environmental and noise study was being conducted based on the grand vision of PDK, right? More hangars, more development.
Right.
And so if the study comes back and says, well, actually, if you take off a few hangars or whatever, then maybe, it'll be less noise and less pollution, right? So if we got that report back, and I would argue we should just go ahead and update the master plan to remove a number of hangars. That could be a practical thing that we could do. I think what they're concerned about is going through an entire master planning process that involves community meetings and more meetings that goes on for how many years did the master plan take?
It took close to a decade.
So by the time you finish it, you got to start a new one. So I think, so when I say an update in regards to the study, we should just evaluate it just on that point. But I certainly support future updates and studies as maybe more development comes online. So if there are more hangars approved, if, let's say the transient landing fees reduce the number of prop planes that come in, I don't know, that would be a benefit to track to see if that's something that's actually reducing noise and pollution.
And then 2B3, Roman numeral 3, where you indicate incorporation of community input. That's something we currently do through our boards, and then just the meetings that they have regularly and conversations with community members. Was there something specific that you felt was not being implemented that you wanted to see?
Well, this is in the context but they just said they were against it, of actually just doing another, not a full master plan, but an update that I think would probably have a couple community meetings. I imagine that's part of the process. So I think what I'm envisioning here is not a full-fledged master plan update, but it might be, like I think you were saying, Director Hines, every 5 to 10 years, there might be some small things that get updated. Sure. And I imagine there would still be some community input for even those small updates. Even if it was through the Airport Advisory Board. I mean, that in essence is a community board that provides input. And those meetings are open to the public, which is my other recommendation, that we invite more people to participate or watch the meetings because a lot of good stuff gets talked about.
Sure, and they're open, in person and virtually, so, yeah.
And then for 4A and 4B, where you discuss our federal lobbying team taking the resolution and essentially lobbying to the FAA and what other regulatory or relevant bodies in order to help us with our concerns around noise and nighttime flights and such. Is there an organization like ACC, comparable to ACCG or NACO or something like that, in which they could galvanize support around these issues? Or is it just our team advocating to this massive organization just for our airport?
I think the one thing that we can do that would make a big difference is if we advocate for our members of Congress to join the Quiet Skies Caucus. I think that right there would just put our members of Congress in partnership with other members of Congress who have airports in similar situations as ours. So I would actually change this entire section because I do not want to lobby. Because again, like it's not even a lobbying thing, it's more just like we'd have to pay the money back. And I just don't think that's practical. So that this whole section actually would change and I would just amend it to say the Quiet Skies Caucus.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say based on the discussion, and thank you so much for your explanation, since you kind of indicated 3 and 4 aren't necessarily relevant to what the goal was or is for this resolution, and then you also indicated in 1 and 2 that it's more minor adjustments, not a major overhaul. I would understand a moratorium potentially with a major overhaul, but for minor updates, I think that's something we can just go ahead and begin to implement. You communicated that if we could just go ahead and add the updates to the environmental, from the environmental study into the document. You talked about having conversations with the community, all, things that can be done without necessarily, that don't necessarily rationalize having a moratorium on development in the interim. So, yeah, I would reconsider the moratorium based on what is written right here in the discussion that we've just had. I yield
Okay.
that.
Okay, Commissioner Long Spears, if you could sort of.
Sure, understood.
yeah,
I know you're
we
running
got
out
it.
of time. I get it.
Yeah,
All righty. So I did do a search, and it looks like Representatives Johnson and Nikema Williams are members of this Quiet Skies Caucus. Are they currently members?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, all right. So we do have representation on there from the metro area, so that's good. My second question for you, Commissioner Terry, is under 2B3. You said incorporate the robust community input, including affected neighborhood schools and stakeholder groups. I don't see a reference to the AAB. I think that the AAB needs to be a part of this process in one form or another. So if that could be a friendly amendment, unless it's written somewhere else and I just don't see it.
Yes, I'm happy to add that in there. I mean, I honestly feel like they're the stakeholder group. So maybe it doesn't need to be said, but if you want it to be said, we can say it for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm of the opinion that you should include the AAB specifically in there,
Okay.
because I'm sure they would like to provide input on this. And just so I'm clear, so 4, around the federal advocacy, you're going to strike this whole section, is that correct?
Well, yes, because that's related to the actual, the number 3. So yes, number 3 needs to be updated.
4 struck.
And 4 might just simply be, we should support the Quiet Skies Caucus.
There you go. Okay.
And legislation they're trying to push.
All right. I live near PDK, so I understand why some of my neighbors would like to restrict nighttime flights. I remember my first year, we met with the FAA when we were at NACO in DC. This was a question that came up, and they were adamant that that is their authority, not ours. And so while you have, it sounds like you're going to strike most of 4, I was just thinking kind of practical. If we were to do this and give it to them, they're like, yeah, whatever, quite frankly. All right, thank you, yield back.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to note that Hank is on transportation too. I know you mentioned Nakima. Hank is on the transportation committee. Okay, with that, because we have to move on. With that, do we have a motion?
Motion to withdraw 1814.
Second? Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that item is withdrawn. Okay, the next item, is 250286, all commission districts, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of DeKalb County reaffirming the county's prior authorization to seek recovery of costs of impoundment and care for court-held dogs pursuant to Official Code of Georgia 41190.8, urging the DeKalb County Law Department to resume filing cost of care petitions and to create court-held dog coordinator positions. I see you at the mic, interim county attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just offer to you as a factual matter, we've already resumed addressing these cases. I will spare you a litany of the process and procedure to get it done, but we have assigned an attorney who will be designated. Our public safety team will work in support of that attorney. The position in this item is needed, but the litigation that is at the root of cost of care petitions in the court and addressing those dogs that should be released because the owners have not been appearing and the like, those matters are being addressed by our office now. There is a process to get them pushed forward. We have started that process and hope to file as soon as legally and factually appropriate, but we're working at it. And I just thought I should tell you that at the outset. As you know, I took this position in late November. It's January, they've been assigned, and we're hoping to see some filing very soon. Okay.
Does this resolution address everything that you all are doing?
Well, the position in the resolution is a different matter, but the urging of the law department to resume these matters I think is unnecessary because I'm stating in my place that the law department has already, in fact, resumed them before you put this item on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Since it's, well, let me see if any commissioners on that. Okay. You want to hear what okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So just to refresh the memories of those of us that served on the commission back in April of 2024 and to advise the new commissioners. Under the leadership of County Attorney Vivian Ernstes, she did assist, and she was the one that really brought the item forward, as you can actually see from the item on April 9th, 2024, for us to authorize the county attorney to file the petitions for cost of impoundment and care in appropriate circumstances. So that was in April 2024. The purpose is to recover the cost incurred for the impoundment and care of animals held as evidence or otherwise held under court authority. In some cases, these dogs have sat in our animal shelter for years, and they end up going what is commonly referred to as cage crazy. And it's just related to the stress. It deteriorates their health, their mental health, their physical health, then their behavior, and then ultimately they end up being unadoptable, and then they're euthanized. That doesn't make any sense. That's cruel, quite frankly. And just so you guys have an idea of the cost, it's about $38 per dog per day. So do the math on that. When you're running roughly 500 dogs, 365, that's a lot of money. So whether you like our furry friends or not, it's a bottom line discussion. This is a financial discussion. Then, unfortunately, in April of 2025, there were no cost of care petitions filed by our county attorneys. And in an absolute fairness, thank you very much, Interim County Attorney Phillips, for resuming, but we did go 9 months with no petitions filed. And part of my purpose in reaffirming, resurfacing this resolution is to just place emphasis on the animals that get stuck in dog jail for years because our process doesn't really accommodate. If you ask other jurisdictions, they haven't really had the court-held dog issue that we have in DeKalb County. And I know you want me to move on, so I will go quickly. But there, again, just a reminder, there are 3 parts to this. One is just reaffirming what we already voted on in April of 2024. 2 was urging the county law department to resume the filing the cost of care petitions, which you have done. And 3, to create a court-held dog coordinator position. And I believe what is important for people to know is that in 2024, in the mid-year budget, this board did pass funding for a court-held dog position. So, Mr. County Attorney, I would like to keep this active. Obviously, the committee will vote however they want to vote on it. But just so that it stays, top of mind to our law department and how incredibly expensive it is to keep these dogs there, but also how it just really degrades their physical and mental health.
Okay.
Thank
So if we could use, maybe continue rather than resume, and if you could speak on the, coordinator that Commissioner Lone Spears talked about, because I think that the resolution, it was no problem. But he said we was already doing it, so rather than resuming, I would maybe suggest as to continue. And then, what do you say about the coordinator?
Well, first and foremost, the coordinator position, as I understood the previous discussions, were about the tedious, time-consuming work of generating accurate reports and facilitating healthy communication and monitoring this process properly. We had a lawyer previously dig through court records, more than one court, to identify the status of what was occurring and generate a monthly report so that folks could see what was happening with a number of the cases involving animals and the animals that were subjects of those cases. For context, I pulled some numbers yesterday, just to give you some context. I understand there are 1,222 dogs at our shelter. 73 of them have court cases. That's just the numbers that I was given. The accuracy I won't profess to. That's less than 6% of those dogs. I get the concern. I'm not offering any resistance. In fact, I have the exact opposite perspective. I have had the advocates speak to me in meetings, and I have worked to make sure our department, under my leadership, gave this the attention it deserved. The lawyer assigned to generate that report spent an inordinate amount of time doing it, and I can't justify having a lawyer doing it. This position would be maybe a paralegal, and we would train them to help generate the report and do additional work to help facilitate this process. The idea that I was speaking to in terms of the urging resolution to resume it is to just put you on notice that that has happened. I understand the need to make sure the position is properly staffed and functioning, and it will evolve as we continue this work. So know that this is not offered as any opposition. It's just clarification of where we are right now.
Okay.
And I need one technical point to be understood. Ms. Ernstis brought this because this is actually affirmative litigation by the county. So your permission was necessary. And
We gave it.
we have functioned under the proposition that you gave us that permission to move forward on an as-needed basis into the future.
Okay, so,
May I, Chair?
Commissioner,
Please,
yes,
thank
and
you.
I'm gonna call on you, but I want to say if you could get with
Yes,
County Attorney
sure,
Terry
Yep.
for a substitute
of course.
to,
Yep.
you know, put the language
Yeah.
together.
Can I just make a point of clarification so people don't
Yeah.
freak out? There are not 1,222 dogs in our shelter.
Sure.
That includes fostering.
Understood.
Because if people got wind of that, that'd make the front page of the AJC. So anyways, 1222 does include the dogs that are in the shelter and fostering. And absolutely, I will get with you on a substitute where we're both happy with it.
Okay, I just want to say, and I'll stop talking about this item. There are two fundamental things that I think we need to do in addition to getting this new position to help facilitate some of the work and the communication around it. Motions to dispose and cost of care petitions. Those are two different things, okay? Cost of care, you've discussed ad nauseum. Motions to dispose are where we have an animal sitting in the court, a human being who's not coming to court, we've not found him, and we move to get permission to deal with that animal without the owner. So we'll work
We'll
with
address.
Commissioner Spears to make sure that we have
we could-
the appropriate legal approach,
Right.
and we articulate it in her item in a way that's satisfactory to her, that covers all of the things I believe she wants covered, to make sure we're addressing these
Right,
issues.
and if you could identify the position, the coordinator, so that we'll know it would be in the law department and it would be a paralegal.
Could we ask how long you would like County Attorney Phillips to work on this? Just so that the committee knows the
When it
deferment
comes.
period.
Well, I would ask that you just defer this to the next meeting and let's have a discussion. I'm hoping we can do some minor tweaks to what you've presented. The real work is behind the legislation to make sure we're actually on the ground doing the things that this represents.
Obviously, my goal is just to eliminate
So-
these court-held dogs.
Denise.
Or being in the shelter, not eliminate, but get them into a forever home or a foster home. Yes.
Yeah.
I want to be crystal clear into a safe, caring, loving environment.
Okay, so when is the next board?
The next BOC would be February 26th. is the next
Okay, Commissioner Long Spears, we're looking at maybe deferring this to the 26th meeting with another stop in PACS
Ops,
ops on the 19th,
On the
17th.
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 Okay, so February 26th. Okay, I'm
Okay.
in line with that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Is there a motion?
I move to defer item 2026-0286 to the February 26 BOC with a prior stop in ops.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is it anyone on the clerk's office here? Oh, okay. Okay. That item is deferred. The next item is 251661. And that's all commission districts change order to contract number 1365939. Equinte, annual hosting, maintenance, support sole source for use by the Department of Watershed Management and Department of Innovation and Technology. Consists of the annual hosting, maintenance and support of state-of-the-art customer information system, solution for the county's customer billing system integration. This request seeks to increase contract funds awarded to Systems and Software, Inc., amount not to exceed $7,550,000. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Encuesta is the customer billing system that's used by multiple departments within the county, including water and sewer, sanitation, human services, and the airport, where citizens can log in and pay their bills. So there's two components to this request. The first component is an IT component, which we are requesting $800,000 for the support, the maintenance, and the hosting of the application itself. And the second portion of the request, I'm gonna let CFO Ms. McNabb explain the other half.
The majority of the remaining request relates to our online payment system and our ability to offer the various payment functions like ACH, allowing customers to pay by ACH, they pay with their phones, they pay with Apple Pay, Google Pay, and automatic bank pay, all of those things. And those are the financial charges that come, primarily the financial charges that come with that system.
Okay, thank you. John, has this come back from audit? No, ma'am, it hasn't. Okay. So it has not come back from audit, so I'm assuming that we will defer this item.
It wasn't a competitive bid. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that if it was a competitive bid, it's
Well-
carry on an ongoing contract.
Okay, so whether it's compared to bid or not, I think we would send anything over
Okay,
$3 million to
Got it.
audit.
no worries. I just
And so is
wasn't aware of that.
this urgent
I think
in
we're okay,
that
aren't
we couldn't wait till the next meeting?
The next meeting, yes. We should be good.
We could?
We can.
Okay, well, let it come back from audit. Okay, and so we'll continue the item until the next business meeting.
I do have a question, though.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't raise your hand.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. This may be outside the bounds of Inquesta, but I still want to ask the question to carry the issue. When there is a break in the water lines and there's a discontinuation of service, is there a way, since you guys have access to the billing data and the addresses and all the information for who's affected when someone is out of water, in addition to doing a public notice, could you also have something that can send a notice directly to those residents in the affected area? So you have the streets, you have the zip codes. Is there a way to be able to send something very tailored to those folks that would be in the affected area?
I think that would depend on whether GIS was hooked into that, wouldn't it?
And also, I know we looked at a mass communications solution earlier.
Yep.
Hopefully they can tie it or zoom in on those addresses that are impacted and send just a notification to those affected customers.
And
That's what we're hoping for.
right, and
We're gonna
with
push
respect
for
to
that.
our ops chair, I know that item was walked on today.
Right.
But I do want to sort of tee up the issue of if we have the technology, we should be using it to be able to communicate with our residents that are affected more directly and more expeditiously. So,
Absolutely.
thank you, Madam Chair.
And of course, you stated that this was a sole source. And so, yeah, I mean, your utility companies, without having to name them, if power goes out in my area, it sends a message that the power is out.
Right.
And it'll give you the approximate time that we could anticipate it being restored. And I think that if this can't do that, we may want to go competitive. I'm just
Certainly.
saying that.
I think it's a matter of putting together because it's on the operational side that the outage occurs versus the billing and payment side. But if we can hook those two together so that we can utilize the contact information that's in our billing files, then that's what I would expect to be done, is somebody in DWM would be able to access and trigger the contact of the people that are in the Inquesta system.
Right. Yeah, because it's really the neighborhood rather than the person. Because, I mean, it's really, I would think it's very important that a person can estimate the time that they're going to be out of water. or they can estimate the time that they're going to be out of power. So that whatever arrangements that they need to make, we don't know who's in that household and how that can be affected, how they can be affected. But if they had an estimate time, they could make arrangements to do what they would need to do. Okay.
We'll definitely check into that, and I can imagine it can be done. It's just going to be a matter of price.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And if I may, Madam Chair, I believe the system that will be discussed in ERPS, the RAVE system that was walked on, that is your emergency communication system, and it should be able to do these type of things. So data could be informed or fed by this system that shows the impacts of water flow. But ultimately, the notification system would be what is called RAVE, and that's in the next discussion.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. We have another question here.
I wanted to go back to the discussion on the amount. I know you indicated about $800,000 of that would be going toward IT and the remainder would be toward the system. And you kind of indicated it has to do with the differing forms of payment. Have we kind of outlined where the majority or the least amount of payments are going, whether to Apple Pay or whatever the options are? Because if we reduce the number of payments payment options based on the fact that something is underutilized, we could save funds and maybe use that to go toward interfacing these two different platforms that we were just talking about so they can speak to each other.
we get billed by, our billing every month comes in by what items get utilized. I mean, which payment approaches get utilized. And I can figure out which ones are the most used and the least used.
How many
and look at it
options
from
do
that.
we provide? Is it like 5?
I would say it's probably more like 6 or 8.
Okay. Yeah. So I would ask that we just take a look at that and make sure that we're being billed for something that's actually being utilized by the community. And then if not, make the adjustment so we can save money.
And we don't pay by how they're utilized. We don't pay, for example, Apple Pay a bulk number. It's how many transactions they actually clear. So we never get billed for transactions that don't result in payments.
Okay.
It's like, if it was like 1% on the size of the bill, for example. So if somebody switched, if we eliminated Apple Pay, for example, and kept PayPal, if they just switched from Apple Pay to PayPal, our fees wouldn't go down.
Okay.
They would just stay the same.
Gotcha. Understood. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention really quickly, I know it was brought up by COO about the RAVE system. And it's reassuring that we do have something that we're looking forward to. However, we had a system, the Code Red, before, and we were not using that system to capacity to essentially alert the community. So even though we have something coming up, I think we need a strategy for using the systems together, interfacing the systems, because just having them over the past couple of years hasn't been enough to make sure the alerts are going out to community members. And I'll give an example. Right off Columbia Drive, I talk about where I live all the time. I knew that there was a water main break when I pulled out of my subdivision, not because I was alerted. Okay, I yield back.
I think that's what Zach was talking about, communicating that with the new systems working.
And if,
Go on.
just really briefly.
Yeah, briefly.
And something with our emergency communications, we have typically used Code Red for things like boil water, and we would probably anticipate something similar with RAVE. We may need to do a better job in terms of next door and those types of things, but we have to evaluate each time we send out an emergency notification. Is this something that if we keep sending it out because it's fairly routine, that it won't work in the future? So that's just, part of our calculus. So in the past, code red has most typically been used for boil water orders off the top of my head.
Neighborhood specific, right? So
Well,
one
yeah,
neighborhood
generally
shouldn't be
boil-
inundated. If we're not sending it to everybody, we're only sending it to the impacted neighborhoods. Nobody should be inundated, because if they are, there's a problem in that community that needs to be addressed immediately.
Yeah, we'll have to talk later, because I'm not sure when you say inundated, Commissioner.
With constantly being alerted, like you were
Oh.
saying. Yeah, no
Right.
one neighborhood should constantly be alerted if we're only sending
Oh,
the
understood.
alerts to
Understand what you're
communities
saying.
that are impacted.
That's a good point.
Right. Okay, so is there a motion?
I move to defer item 2025-1661 pending audit.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that item is deferred. I did want to go over a couple of things on our rules book. And if these two items are not urgent, I want to bring them back on the next calendar. That's 1831 and 0110, because I got probably about 10 minutes before. I got 10 minutes before.
We can defer those.
Okay, well, really, I got more than 10 minutes, because an hour and a half. Okay. No, we didn't start till 1:30. Yeah, but I'm saying we didn't start at 1:30, so it pushes you back. We get an hour and a half. Yeah, we do.
EWI is flexible. We have 7
Yeah.
items, so 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
4:15, that's what.
I want to get into the rules, but, and, yeah, so those items can be deferred to our next, regular ops meeting.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so, John, do you want to come up so that we can? I want to get through this road. I want to get through this road by the end of the month. Oh, look at her. All of that, she got a shortage. Okay, so do you have anything for us to look at?
Yes, ma'am. You should have this document on the dais. We'll be on page 9 of that, page 8 of that document, section 4, public hearing procedures. The very first item, number 2, exercise of the zoning power shall conform to the standards expressed in the comprehensive land use plan as amended.
Where are you?
Page
What are
8,
you?
page 8, number 2.
Page 8. Okay, so, let me see. Okay, I think, Chad, we was going to talk about the
Okay.
resolution and the time
Yes,
limits.
ma'am.
That's what.
So the request was that we speak about the time limits for debate within board meetings and also speak about the process for adding an item to the agenda. I have requested that the law department speak about those two particular
Okay,
changes.
yeah, if we can go on and talk about those. The time limit, let's go with the time limit first, and then we'll go adding items to the agenda.
Her copy is different.
John, we may need a couple more copies. Okay, back
Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure that I understand the question, but as to time limits, Robert's Rules lays out the rules that have been followed so far this year, the 10 minutes per speech or per comment, and then with the ability for a commissioner to have a second opportunity to speak once all other commissioners have had their opportunity. That's what Robert's Rule says. You all, of course, have your, as it is currently called, the Blue Book. You can change that rule.
Yeah, it was. We have amendments that John, we had amendments that people were submitting. There was a 5-3 amendment that we talked about after the last meeting. Do you want to go talk about that?
So, and just to speak a little bit about the process, so those amendments were added to the law review list. So it's technically on a separate list than what you all have in front of you. But to speak to the amendments themselves, there are current time limits for debates within the Blue Book, and they speak to aligning with Robert's Rules. The recommendation was that, well, there have been several recommendations for time limits, but the most recent recommendation is that your first time speaking would be 5 minutes, and then your second time speaking would be 3 minutes. That's the recommendation. If you all want to accept that, it'll be something that we incorporate into the Blue Book.
Okay,
I'd just like to add one comment for perspective. 7 commissioners times 5 minutes is 35 minutes, one item, and you haven't exhausted your discussion. And the context of this, with all due respect, is how long your meetings are taking and how long your deliberation goes. So even at 5 minutes for a first time speaking on one item and 3 minutes for a second time on one item, that is an awful lot of deliberation that you are buying if folks use their time. So your context being the cumulative volume of speaking is a very different way to look at it. 5 minutes and 3 minutes, 8 minutes per item, per commissioner, you have a very long meeting. It's very doubtful any of you would ever go through an item where everybody uses all of their time twice. But I just wanted to remind you of that context because that's a part of what you've been discussing and considering. Look at both ends. Decide how much time you want to give to public discussion.
Okay, so my thought on this last recommendation is really that these discussions really need to be done in committee, not at the board meeting. And so what we've been doing was having discussions on the item in the board meetings. But I think that they should be encouraged to discuss in committee. Now, my question to you, and I thought 5-3 was reasonable. I mean, it gives people time not to adjudicate or to advocate in meetings, in board meetings, but it gives them an opportunity to give their thoughts on a particular item in board board meetings, and so, or committee of the whole. So if anyone have any suggestions other than the 5-3, please speak now or forever hold your peace.
You know that's what I was thinking.
Or, Attorney, what would you recommend? I mean, 3-5 is out there. We're gonna hear from committee members. What would you recommend? Understanding that we will be encouraging dialogue in the committee meetings.
two things. I've not imposed a hard push on the 5-3 recommendation. I just offered the context because that's the backdrop in which this whole conversation took place as I understood it. The other thing for all of you to remember is we've received this discussion and the various recommendations as a comprehensive approach to improve your process. So 5-3 is viewed in connection with having a process to get items on the agenda, having more dialogue amongst yourselves before things are even offered, vetting those things with input from the operational impact, the financial impact, the legal ability to actually do it. All of those components were discussed in the last committee meeting and shape my perspective of what you're recommending for a change to your rules. 5-3 is fine if you've done all the other things. In the absence of the other things, 5-3 may not work for you.
Okay, well, I mean, that's what we're encouraging, and that's the reason we're looking at the Blue Book, you know, because, okay, Commissioner, well, first, let me see if my members have anything that they'd like to say.
No comments right now.
No comments right now. What about you?
I just wanted a little bit of clarity on the Blue Book. Is there an indication of the 10, whether there's a maximum number of committee members, why 10 is reasonable? 10 minutes, let me be clear, 10 minutes.
The 10-minute speaking
I meant Robert's rules, excuse me.
The 10-minute speaking time is just what's in Robert's rules. And the one thing I'll caution you all about is remembering Robert's rules, it really is a comprehensive set of rules for a body to function. And it's a one-size-fits-all. So you have some bodies who are going to meet regularly, all day, every day, in 10 minutes per item with all of their other procedures may work fine. What's apparently obvious to me in listening to you and what's been a part of your own discussion is whether or not that still fits for the way things are working for you. And as you make these adjustments, again, they're all being made together. So if you think of it, Dr. Bolton, as pieces to a puzzle, how are we going to function more effectively and efficiently? Well, the way we get things on, how much time we give to speak in a meeting, all of that fits together. And the Roberts Rules piece are not necessarily a customized puzzle to fit you and your needs as a body. Whereas your discussion of the standing procedural rules for this body will be customized based on your own decision as a body of what the rules should be. So that's how that works. And I hope I answered you about the 10 minutes. It was simply pulled because that's what's listed in the book.
I think that was the perfect explanation, that the Roberts Rule is just the framework from which we can work, but then we customize with our Blue Book. Thank you. I yield back.
Okay. Commissioner Massad was named.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. In general, I don't have an issue with the 5-3. My only ask is going to be that, we keep it to items unless they are a walk-on, something that was introduced last minute or some last-minute change or a substitute where it may necessitate more of a dialogue because we might not have had an opportunity to flush it out with the same fervor, and prepare and make tweaks or what have you if we're getting it as a walk-on or a last-minute change. So my only ask is 5-3 unless, something
Okay.
is necessary.
There is dialogue in the Blue Book that is being addressed to walk-ons. So we can address that when we get to walk-ons. But generally, 3-5 is what was recommended as opposed to 10-5. 10, oh, that's right, as opposed to 10-10. And then we're going to Commissioner.
And Commissioner, to your point, you can always extend the limits of debate for an item. That is something that's addressed in the Blue Book as well.
Right. Okay, Commissioner Long Spears.
Thank you very much. I'm was going to basically say the same thing that Mr. Manson just did, is that we do have the option of extending or limiting debate already. I don't know that we did it more than once last year. And as the presiding officer last year, I just defaulted to Robert's rules, which is how we landed on the 2 times of 10 minutes. But I'm in support of the 5-3, because again, our meetings have been exceedingly long, and it might help us get through it, and then encourage folks to have these conversations in committee versus during the business meeting.
Right. Okay.
Yield back. Thank you.
Okay, I think, presiding officer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
No.
I just piggyback off our most recent former presiding officer. In coming into this role and looking at ways to try and make the meetings more efficient is when I realized it's just in the Roberts rules, that's the 10 minutes, and then it's also not clear. It was interpreted last year that there was two times at 10 minutes each, but it's not very clear. So I really like the opportunity of making sure it's very clear that it's the 5 and the 3. I'm good with 5 and 3, because to me, the language in Robert's rule says we get the opportunity to speak twice, and it's 10 minutes. But is that 10 minutes total, 10 minutes each time? I think there was just some unclarity in that when I was reviewing it. So I'm in favor of the 5-3 and trying to make sure that, like I've said, trying to make these meetings more efficient. I think we need to be doing more of the work on the committees at the committee level, and that's where the discussion should be happening. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, thank you. Well, if there's no other further discussions, I think from my committee and from the people that's here, the consensus of 5-3, and just to formalize that, you want to motion that we add that? We add that to what we've already.
I will add it to the recommendations for the entire
For the entire,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, great. Now, the last one that I wanted to talk on was the resolutions.
Can I ask one question on that, to that point? Is the committee expecting to go through all the items and do like a wholesale?
Wholesale.
Okay, understood.
Because everyone is commenting at every meeting.
Yes.
Whether it be in person or whether it be virtual.
Understood, thank you.
Yeah, we have everyone's input. Resolutions.
Yes, ma'am. So the second request that you wanted to speak about today was the request to change the Blue Book to require 3 commissioners to sponsor an item or support an item before it gets added to the agenda. And I believe that it was specifically for commissioner-generated resolutions. But yes.
Yeah, it wasn't my item, but it was, these are the items. I want y'all to know that what we're talking about is not specifically my items. These were the recommendations that were made for the Blue Book. So, who made that one? Yeah. That was, okay. Do you want to speak on that, and then we can go from there?
The idea was simply, we have a lot of resolutions that come up. Perhaps if we have 3 commissioners that say, and this is keeping it in the minority, 3 commissioners say that this is something noteworthy to address, then it moves it forward. However the process is, either directly onto the agenda or going through some kind of review process with central staff and the lawyers before it comes up here. But that was the idea, is to sort of make sure that this is something supported, at least by a minority of the commissioners.
Yeah, and and so I sort of back that, because each resolution go to the law department, and we can bombard them with resolutions if we're given resolutions and you have the right to give a resolution. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying for us to get it onto an agenda, we need the support of 3 of the 7 commissioners. And so I think that that's very reasonable.
Just to add, it's the mover and 2 others.
Yeah, the mover and 2 others.
It's not 1
It's
plus
not.
3 others.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to clarify with legal, or John, you may be able to address this. Would there be any conflict if those 3 are on the same committee?
that would not create an inherent conflict. The issue is when you have a quorum of a committee, your ability to meet in person and discuss county business is subject to the rules of the Open Meetings Act. You can always exchange emails. A sponsoring commissioner could send to colleagues, I'm looking for two of you, or I could send that. Phillips from the 8th District could send it to John Doe from the 9th and John Doe 2 from the 10th and say, I'm looking for support from you two. I'd like to add this to the agenda. May I list you as supporting? Please confirm. That happening in writing is fine. What we couldn't do is meet in person because that would violate the Open Meetings Act. And I think that's the root of what you were asking. And since you called me, I'll ask that you add ordinances to this and not just resolutions.
Could I not pick up the phone and call one of them? And then I pick up the phone and call another one, as long as
You have to
not-
be very careful about having a remote meeting.
No,
If you get on Teams, if you get on a phone, if you get on Zoom, you might be guilty of having a remote meeting. Be very careful about that.
but just one-on-one.
Typically, that's okay. Again, your committee structure has changed.
Okay, I got you.
scrutiny
I got you.
Of your discussions, because when two of you from a committee get together, you have a quorum of the committee.
Okay.
That too subject to open meetings.
Okay, thank you.
And I also just wanted to iterate, recently it seems that commissioners have had at least one other person in support, like recently your item with the Arts Council, and I agreed to co-sponsor. But my understanding currently is that co-sponsorship isn't really a formal thing with us. Will this formalize it?
We would co-sponsor.
Yeah. So is it just supporting or co-sponsorship, essentially, I guess, is what I'm asking?
I'm not sure if there's a legal distinction, but
Okay, well, here's
the
the
idea.
law. Here's the law
okay,
coming
here we
back.
go.
I've understood it to be support. I would make a technical distinction in that the sponsor has a piece of legislation, resolution, or ordinance, and they're asking two commissioners to say, yes, I'm in support of us pursuing this, versus a co-sponsor may get involved in the drafting and is far more involved than just saying, yes, I support us doing that. Does that answer your question, Dr. Bolton, about the distinction?
Yes, and what was it that you were proposing, support or co-sponsorship?
Support. And
Support.
so much like we do, I'll second for the purposes of discussion. We may say, hey, this is something that's interesting. I'll go ahead and advance it, see where the discussion takes us, and then certainly by all means, if they change their mind, welcome to pull that back.
So with that being said, then how will, if it's just support, how will it be documented that there are two additional commissioners that support this item in order to get it on the agenda?
Yeah, I would think, with our cover sheets on individual agenda items or our walk-on items, just supported by districts 1, 2, or
Well, I want to be a co-sponsor then.
then you upsize it. You're welcome to it.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you,
Ted.
I would think that if someone reaches out, and correct me if I'm wrong, if someone reaches out for your support, and then, hold on, if someone reaches out for your support, and you say to that person, I'll support it, but I'd also like to be a co-sponsor. And so I would think that would be up to whoever's sponsoring the piece of legislation to see if they want a supporter of it or a co-sponsor of it. That would be their choice. Okay.
Commissioners, if I may, this does touch another process as far as adding an item to the agenda to the CAL. So staff would like an opportunity to craft such language and then bring it back to you for your review before we make a decision on this one.
Well, I think that if we have the concept, all of it is going to be crafted and brought back for final approval.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about concepts now that we're approving to put in the blue book. Okay, Commissioner Longsbeard.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. While I appreciate your sentiment on this and why you're suggesting that there be at least 3 commissioners sponsoring, supporting whatever language we end up going with, I think in practice that's going to be hard. And I will give an example of why. So for example, the PEX committee is Ted Terry, myself, and Commissioner Messiah. And so if I wanted to support something such as something related to the arts, for example, I can't talk to Commissioner Terry or Commissioner Messiah per our law department, because that would then create a quorum of the PEX committee. Now, I am told that you can email, but you guys do know how difficult it is sometimes when you're trying to relay the purpose or the spirit in email. I mean, it just will create a huge back and forth. So in that example, that would mean I would have to go to Commissioner Davis Johnson, Bolton, Johnson, or Commissioner Patrick, and 2 of those 4 would have to support it. And I think that is difficult, because that's basically 5 people that would be kind of engaged on it, the 3 committee members, plus the 2 sponsors, whatever we end up calling it. And again, just as this is my 4th year on the board, I think that will be incredibly challenging. My second comment is the issue related to the co-sponsor appearing, and to use your example, on the arts item. Miss Beth Ganga, she's the one that prepared that substitute that included you as a co-sponsor. From my understanding, it's an issue with Legistar where you're not able to go in, Beth is shaking her head, and put 2 commissioners' names down, or more. In this case, it would be 3. So I think that's a technical consideration that when you guys, Mr. Manson, go back and look at this, is determine that do we even have the technical capability of listing 3 commissioners within the item itself on Legistar. And the way we have gotten around this in the past is like in the purpose, for example, on the agenda cover page, you'll put co-sponsored by blah, 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 blah. So that's just kind of how we've gotten around that.
Supported by.
Yeah, so I will just simply say I'm adamantly not in support of this item, because I do believe, or that suggestion, with all due respect, because I think it would really limit our ability to do our jobs. I think our jobs are to propose legislation, resolutions, policies, ordinances that are in the best interest of our community. And sometimes when we're doing that, they're complex, and it takes this debate and this dialogue to really flush it out. And we always go to our vote. It's 4, it passes. If it doesn't get 4, it doesn't pass, and your colleagues don't agree with you. And lastly, I believe that the purpose of the committee structure is to flush out these items. There are 3 committee members per committee, and so when they are, debating in that respective committee on an item, you give a recommendation, whether it comes out with no recommendation, a recommendation to approve or not approve. So again, I think we have a process in place that's vetting that. Getting to the core is, as the previous PO, trust me, I agree with the current PO, is having more conversation in committee would be excellent, because that is the problem with our long meetings. And thank you very much. I yield back.
Okay, and then I would just say if an email is sent with the resolution to any of the commissioners, you can read the email, which should be self-explanatory. And if there's any question on that email, of course, you can ask that question to the sponsor. But you wouldn't just be sending a question where you sponsor something and you don't have the resolution that you want to sponsor. The problem has been we have so many resolutions, we can't get much done. And I'm saying, and if you're going to have resolutions, just get 2 people to support it, whether it be in the bottom, whether it be in the agenda item itself, who supports it, or whether you want to have a co-sponsor on it. If I don't want Commissioner Bolden to co-sponsor something that I'm sponsoring, I just tell her, I don't want you to co-sponsor it, but I want your support. And she'll let me know whether I have her support. If not, I'm gonna go to the next person and see if I can get 2 supporters on it. Okay.
if you don't-
I think, did you have, because I think your hand was up. Yeah.
Mine was up
Okay.
next.
I'm sorry.
I had mine up.
You had yours up. Okay, so yours, her hand, and then yours, and then we're gonna stop because she's looking at me. Okay, and if we can make it brief, because I'm moving into her time now, 8 minutes in. Okay,
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I am 100% opposed to this idea. I'm a little offended that y'all were already talking about the ways to make it happen before we even heard from the rest of the body. So I'm concerned about that because it indicates that
That's not
folks.
true.
Okay, well, some folks were already just figuring out how to make it happen, like technically, and you ain't even heard from the whole board yet. So that's what I picked. That's my point of view.
okay,
And
okay, come on.
okay, well, some of y'all were already working it out in your heads, but maybe y'all have already had your 3 conversations and you've already figured out you're going to make this change. I don't know. I keep hearing people propose things, but I wasn't part of those conversations. But the fundamental question is, you go around to every commissioner and no one wants to co-sponsor, then what are you left to do? What do your constituents think about your inability to get something on the agenda because 6 members say, nah, I'm good. And what it really is doing is suppressing minority viewpoints. Yeah, I didn't oppose the 5-minute, 3-minute thing. I get that.
Okay.
But if you're trying to restrict my ability to represent my constituents by bringing legislation to this body, meaning I have to go get two co-sponsors, which,
Right.
as far as I know, no other, like, they don't do that at the General Assembly. If a legislator wants to introduce a bill, they can just go ahead and plop it on the calendar.
No, it got to go to, no, they can't do that.
If they want-
can't do that in the General Assembly, they can't do it at the federal level either.
Okay, well, that's 180.
They had to get many co-sponsors.
Okay, well, let's add 180 members to the
Okay.
commission, and then we'll have no problem.
Yeah.
But I think really what's going on here is that some commissioners don't hardly do anything, and so they're just annoyed they have to do work. And I can just tell you right now, because I ran the numbers, I've introduced more legislation than all of y'all combined. And yeah, but like, it's not like I just made these things up.
Okay.
And so, but what you're trying
Commissioner
to do
Terry, if you
is-
can make your point, you've already said you 100%
All I gotta
against it.
say
We
is,
understand that.
if y'all make this change, I will fight it every step of the way.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is suppressing minority viewpoints just because you don't like it.
Okay, we understand.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I am actually in favor of this. I think it was Commissioner Terry who likes to lecture us that we need to do the work before the meetings and get the consensus. And I think this is one way to make sure that we're doing that work and talking to our fellow commissioners, even if it is just by email. I think this is something that can make sure if an item is presented and you're not getting someone who's willing to be a sponsor, then maybe we can take an opportunity to tweak it, to look at it and make a change on what is being presented so that it can be more palatable to all of the commissioners, or at least the 2 other commissioners. So I am in favor of, especially seeing what this language will really look like. We have a lot of ideas floating out there, but before we can nix it, I definitely want to see this in writing. Thank you.
I was invoked. I should respond.
not ask you a question.
But you called me out.
Okay. Order. Okay, Commissioner Masai. Okay, and we getting ready to cut it off because.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So I too have concerns that I'm sure we could work out related to how it's proposed. Maybe it's not 3, maybe it's 1 additional individual, because I do share the concerns in terms of somebody being on the same committee and what challenges that may present, particularly since we'll be having discussions about the business of the county. I appreciate wholeheartedly the spirit of where it comes from. And just to be quite honest, if, because we have some of the challenges that we have, in extremity, there are extreme ways to try to address it so that we are all not, necessarily impacted in a way that we choose not to, so that it's representative of the governing body when we do put forth legislation or is introduced. The other thing I will also say is, in terms of voice and minority voice and our voices being heard, sometimes there does seem to be an effort to take our own voices away and not being able to make a determination whether it's whether we're putting legislation forward or voting for it. And to that, I am vehemently opposed. So I do agree there needs to be some measure, but there are certain things that are happening, even when it comes to our state and our federal legislators that I think we can consider invoking. And that's one, before you introduce a resolution and not just putting pen to paper, that there is a checklist or something that we attest to in the introduction of the legislation. For one thing, that we've researched the particular issue and what we're proposing for compliance and existing laws. And we have to attest to that before we introduce it. One, the next is that we actually include some type of a fiscal impact analysis or some type of impact specifically. Then that we also have reviewed for compliance and any potential conflicts with, any of the statutes or any county ordinances and, any state laws. But then also that what we're presenting is actionable. I think that's an important piece to it as well. And I think if we do things like simply employ SMART goals, right? Make sure that what we're putting forth, we actually are looking at an issue that we're trying to resolve with the resolution, that particular resolution is specific, that, there's a way to measure, for an actual impact, that it's achievable. We can actually achieve what we're setting forth, that it's relevant to what we're dealing with in time and space, and that it's time bound. And so we do that, I think, it'll help us a bit. With that, I yield back to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And I wasn't trying to cut you off either, but I'm going into someone else's meeting. So the consensus is to change it. As to what we change it to, we can discuss at the next meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'll tell you, so the next meeting we'll start with the charter review, and that would be a special call meeting on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And we have to do the special calls every week so that we can get through charter review and the rules book. And after that, we're not going to have any more. With that, I'd like to say thank you to Commissioner Bolton for, you got that, John. We're looking to change it. As to how we're going to change it, we'll discuss at the next.
Yes, ma'am.
At the next meeting, charter review first.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.